Welcome to the 16th lesson of the course Investing in Regenerative Agriculture and Food. How to put money to work to regenerate soils and ecosystems at scale and growing a lot of tasty food while doing it. We put the slides into a PDF, which you can download through the link below, so you don't have to write along and you can have easy access to all the links. Today, we're going to look at what to invest in. We've looked at why to invest in regenerative agriculture and food. We've looked in how to invest in regenerative agriculture and food, and we've looked in a number of places what to invest in. And today we're going to look into ecosystem services. This is not investment advice. This is seek financial advice, professional financial advice before making any investment or before doing any DD. Just to be clear, I'm a small retail investor. I've interviewed many people in the space, but I've always asked the questions. I've never invested. I don't have any money invested in these companies or funds. So, nor I've done due diligence. So please make sure to do proper DD, to find professional advice to before you to understand the risks, because these are obviously risky investments. So what are we looking at? We've looked at land, we've looked at transition finance for farmers, we've looked at food companies, we've looked at technology by and for farmers, and this time we're looking at ecosystem services and specifically the marketplace part of things. So what are ecosystem services? First of all, it's a horrible word and most people don't like it in the space. We haven't come up with a better one, or at least I don't know it. If you do, please let me know, or please let everybody else know. So far it's been morphed into, there are many ecosystem services, obviously, that the ecosystems service to us, which sort of puts us outside the nature area, which is really weird. Obviously, we're part of Earth just as much as anything else. And so to see that nature is servicing us with clean air, with carbon storage, with water, is very weird. But somehow we've used these terms so far, and I will use them also in this lesson. So it comes down, in terms of agriculture, it comes down usually to paying farmers for the carbon storage, water storage, and biodiversity increase. So just to summarize, healthier soils or healthy soils or farmers that are using regenerative practices, they generally store more carbon than they emit. Their soils, as they are regenerating, they're getting healthier, and healthy soil has a big component of carbon, mainly soil carbon or soil organic matter. Healthy soils also store a lot more water than unhealthy soils. And normally on a farm that is practicing regenerative practices, the biodiversity increases above soil, meaning birds, insects, other animals, wildlife, etc., but also in the soil. So below soil, all kinds of animals, much more life comes back to the farm. So let's say even if we're all paying a bit more for good nutrient-dense food, we've talked about nutrients in previous lessons, my understanding is that that's not going to be enough to get millions and millions of farmers to change their practices, because that's what we're talking about. So if there's a way to pay farmers directly, equally, fairly, for the carbon they store, the water they store, the biodiversity, maybe for the beauty they store, a lot of ecotourism plans and schemes are around that. A lot of services that farmers provide by being a landscape custodian, if we can pay them to speed up the practices that many farmers want to do, but simply there's no business model. Hence, marketplaces. If there are marketplaces where big companies or small private individuals like myself could actually pay for these ecosystem services, maybe that kicks off a revolution in terms of farming. There is obviously a huge chicken and egg issue here, or a huge marketplace issue that everybody knows that has invested in marketplaces. You need both the market, you need the physical space or the virtual space to sell and buy things, but you mostly need customers and demand. In this case, the customers might be the bigger issue than the demand, meaning that if you find enough customers, if you find companies, if you find private individuals, if you find governments that want to pay for outcome, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about carbon storage, an amount of tons removed from the air into soil, or we're talking about amount of water stored. We're talking about biodiversity increase. We're talking about measurable things. At the moment, most people are not paying for that, or most companies are not paying. So either there's going to be policy changes or a huge consciousness change of companies that really, and people that really feel a need to pay for removal of carbon. Unless that happens, the marketplace, the consumer side or the customer side is going to be tricky. The demand side doesn't seem to be so tricky, because as soon as you pay farmers for practices, for changing practices, a lot of farmers are interested. I've yet to meet a farmer that says, I would love to degrade my soils. Now, obviously, if you can pay him or her a fair price for regenerating their soils, they will do it in most cases. So the demand side, in terms of finding the farmers to do this, doesn't seem to be the issue. If you're interested in investing in this space, I would really focus on the differences between the different marketplaces that are out there, how they're approaching the customer side, how they're going to sell these removal credits, these removal tokens, or whatever it is. There are a number of them currently active, and I will go through that in the digging deeper. So we've interviewed Paul Gamble of Nori, and they have an amazing podcast as well. I have a link with that in the next slide. And we've interviewed Gregory Landau of Regen Network. Those are two main marketplaces so far. The interview with Gregory has been a few years, so we definitely need to do a check-in. And maybe when you're watching this, it's actually there, and you can easily find it, obviously, on our website, investinginregenerativeagriculture.com. If you want to dig deeper, Soil Heroes is another platform. As we're speaking, we haven't interviewed them yet, but it's actually in the planning, so it might be online when you're watching this. Full disclosure, I am an advisor to them. They have a great website, they have a great foundation as well, if you want to dig deeper into the nitty-gritty details. As I mentioned, Nori, I actually bought my carbon removal for my travel last year in 2019 through them. That's how we got in touch, and that's how I ended up being on their podcast, and they came on ours. So they have a really good carbon removal podcast if you're interested in that specific part of the sector. Cargill is experimenting with another marketplace. So this article of GreenBiz goes a bit deeper into that. So you see a lot of movement of these big companies, especially food companies, that have exposure in the value chain and see, for instance, they have a net zero goal for 2030-35. And they see, as they are a big food company, they actually, the biggest changes they can make are with their suppliers, their farmers. So for these companies, it's much easier to start investing in the space because they have skin in the game. Website of Regen Network, great website. You can follow their progress. And as always, I almost always push this on the digging deeper, is the No Regrets initiative started by Sally Calhoun and Esther Park of Cienega Capital. They really do a good job of giving an almost complete overview of the regenerative agriculture and food space, everything from regenerative business models to soil health and soil science, and they definitely go deep into carbon, water, and biodiversity as well. Be prepared to lose a few hours, a few days maybe in reading there. And if you want to dig a bit deeper than that, we have a playlist where we keep you updated. So if new interviews come online, they will end up here as well. And it's basically a link to the website with a playlist of the payment systems for farmers for ecosystem services. And with that, that's the end of this lesson. If you have any feedback, please share through the website. There's a contact form through Twitter, LinkedIn, and we are pretty reachable. And don't forget, if you have the means and this content is creating value to you, please consider paying what you think it's worth. You can find the link below. And with that, we are done. Next time, we're looking at co-investors, and I hope to see you then, and see you next time.